Hello, seekers, and welcome to the Strange Medicine of Alice Strange podcast. I'm Aliceestreastrange, and this podcast explores where spirituality, psychology, science, and magic intersect. Let me ask you, are you starting to question your life and reality? Are you feeling existential? Have things in your life just kind of started to fall apart? Maybe you lost a job, or a relationship, or another big part of your life? And have you developed a sort of inner knowing? You don't really know how, but you just kind of know that something profound is happening to you. These are the three biggest features of a spiritual awakening. In this episode, I'm going to break down what causes anxiety in a spiritual awakening and give you some keys to figuring out how to overcome it. But first, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Aliceestreastrange. I'm a psychic development and spiritual self-development coach. I help people who feel lost, disconnected, or disempowered by walking with you in your darkest moments and helping you find the light. If you're listening or watching this podcast, you probably already suspect that you're going through a spiritual awakening. And for that, I want to say congratulations. You're already beginning your journey to becoming your best self. But I know a spiritual awakening can be really hard. If you're interested in joining a free up-and-coming community of spiritual individuals where you can connect, get advice, and feel less alone, you can join my community with the link in the description. We will be upgrading to a new and better platform very soon, probably less than a week, and I am so excited to be able to host in an even better space. And if you'd like personalized help navigating your current life, I'm available for divine clarity and guidance sessions, so check out the links in the description to schedule or learn more. Take care, love yourself, and remember, you don't have to do it alone. Welcome, seekers, to the Strange Medicine of Alice Strange, the podcast where modern science meets with what lies beyond what we can see. Here, we delve into psychology, spirituality, science, and the occult. Each episode will explore the bigger questions of existence, the nature of the soul, our internal world, and how we can understand them through spirituality and magic. This podcast is a sanctuary for the soul. Alongside science and spirituality, we also learn the power of compassion and the magic of extending kindness to others. For in the act of giving, we receive. In the act of teaching, we learn. This is a journey into the depths of the mind as well as the heart, where every lesson is a step toward oneness, every insight a bridge to understanding, and every act of kindness a spell that transforms the world. So join me, Aliceestreastrange, on this journey of self-discovery, scientific wonders, ancient knowledge, and finding the strange medicine within yourself. So, it is incredibly common to experience anxiety with a spiritual awakening, but why is that? Well, I'm going to explain to you some of the reasons why this happens, so that you can better understand it, and with understanding, you can find peace of mind and reduce your anxiety. And then I'll include some ways that you can manage your anxiety to help you get through your awakening. Now, the biggest reason anxiety happens in a spiritual awakening is the disintegration of the ego. That is the biggest thing that's going on during a spiritual awakening. Your ego is disintegrating. And when the ego is disintegrating, we start to question everything about our life. We are reevaluating our belief system, what we thought life was, and who we even are. The ego is a survival mechanism that gives us a sense of identity. As our ego disintegrates, we lose our sense of self, and this is a really scary process, but a necessary one. The old ego has to disintegrate for you to become the new you, but since the ego is a protection mechanism, it can be really scary to lose it. The ego likes things to stay how they are, to put us and everything else in a box. We like to have control. That is ego, wanting us to have control. And a lot of things are changing during a spiritual awakening, and we do have very little control. As the ego starts disintegrating, it starts saying to you, am I dying? Am I sick? My life is falling apart. I'm a mess. Am I crazy? What the hell is going on? All of these are things that your ego is saying. And as your ego is saying all of this, your body starts to go into a fear response, and this causes anxiety. Another part of the ego disintegration that causes anxiety is that it's no longer strong enough to keep all of our traumas and our pain from the past suppressed. And all of our unhealed traumas come to the surface. But this is for a reason. Healing the wounds we haven't addressed is a vital part of your awakening. It's often a painful one, but it leads to a much better future. Another part of a spiritual awakening that is working to heal us is a raise in vibration. So when we start awakening, your natural vibration raises. And this is often a shock to our system, especially if your awakening is very sudden. But as your vibration raises, it works to purge any old energies that need to go. This really can lead to exhaustion and restlessness. And I'll talk more about purging and what that looks like later, but it is a big and sometimes confusing part of an awakening. Something else that happens when the ego disintegrates is we may end up feeling less confident, which naturally makes anxiety worse. And having so many wounds from the past coming up also leads to a decrease in confidence. Something else that causes anxiety is as we go through a spiritual awakening, it's very common to feel disconnected from those around you who really don't understand what you're going through. This often leads people to feeling completely alone while surrounded by others. And while going inward and spending time alone can be really helpful when trying to figure out our personal truths and our beliefs, isolation isn't. We as a species are not meant to do life alone, which is why finding community with others who do understand you is so important, or even others who don't quite understand you but are fully supportive of everything you're going through. That's why I host a free online spiritual community for people to connect and not feel so alone. But if you don't want to join my community, go find another community. Just don't isolate yourself to the point of suffering. That's not good for anyone. Another reason we often develop anxiety during a spiritual awakening is because we get heightened empathic abilities during this time. We're taking on the emotions of others more than ever, and often they aren't great emotions. And this can cloud our own feelings and our own sense of self even more. Many people don't even realize at first that they're feeling others' emotions. Even if you've identified as an empath before, you probably have never felt it to this level. And if you don't realize that they're not your emotions, it can lead to a lot of anxiety. Another anxiety inducing thing is it's common as we learn about beings and energies and other things that are non physical in this world that we can develop fear of attachments or even demons. And attachments are fairly rare, but if you're afraid often and are awakening your psychic abilities, it's like turning on a beacon in the dark. All spirits, good and bad, are attracted to that light. And that's why spiritual protection is so important. I talk about this on my podcast and my YouTube channel all the time, but living in a fear state only makes things worse. It's best to put protective measures in place so you can feel safe and not continue to just live in fear. Not only is it not good for your spiritual health, but it's not good for your mental health either, or your physical. Allow yourself the tools you need to feel okay. I have a really great resource for energetic shielding that you can download. It's a complimentary guide that outlines a lot of protection methods. I put this together after 19 years of practice, and the link to download is in the description. It may just give you the reassurance you need. Now, on purging. Purging is when our energetic bodies are pushing out negative energies, ridding us of negative things that no longer serve us. And sometimes we are purging so much during a spiritual awakening that it can feel like we're being drained or that you may have an attachment. If you're struggling with what feels like an attachment and don't know where to go, I specialize in diagnosing and removing attachments, so you can book a session with me if you'd like some help with this. As I always say, you don't have to do this alone, and I mean that. It's important to know that our physical bodies can react to a spiritual awakening, and we can develop symptoms like aching, sweating, feeling hot, feeling restless, shaking, jerking, nervous habits like rocking or bouncing your leg, digestive issues, exhaustion, and a lot more. And this is due to purging and ascension symptoms, but it can be a really scary thing and bring on even more anxiety. If you're experiencing things like this, I highly recommend you see a doctor or a professional to be sure you're healthy, but don't worry too much if they don't find anything. If that's the case, it may be your awakening and it will probably pass. Another part of a spiritual awakening that can be anxiety inducing is that your chakras open up. Your energy centers begin to activate and open, and it can be so sudden that it's very disorienting. This is something I am super passionate about because personally, I went through a period of many years where my chakras, especially my crown chakra, was way too open, and I didn't know what was going on, and I thought I was experiencing psychosis. My life completely turned around, and I was 100% healed when I learned how to regulate how open my chakras were. I know that this is a sensitive subject, but I've seen dramatic changes in my own life as well as my clients when I taught them how to open and close the chakras. Now, I don't recommend anyone who could be in danger rely solely on this practice to heal themselves, because often when our crown or our third eye is too open, it can be hard to decipher what's us and what is not. And it can be hard to even put your thoughts together. And medications can be a life saving intervention for anyone struggling to the point of not being able to think clearly. I personally was on medications before my awakening, and they were increased significantly once it started, but I still had my awakening, and I came out far better on the other side. There are plenty of reasons to not want to take medication, but it's better to take medication for a short while and stay safe than to end up hurt or losing your life. And this goes for anxiety too. Just know that if you feel medications may help you, or you're scared where you're at right now, but you're worried that it may shut off your abilities, that was not my experience. Do what you need to do to help yourself. I do also want to say that working with a coach educated in these things is a great idea. Having someone to support you through this, who has experienced the same things, especially, can help you navigate this scary and confusing time. So, if you want to meet with me to have an exploration call and see if we're a good fit to work together at no cost to you, you can find my booking link in the description. Now, another cause of anxiety during a spiritual awakening is we're uncovering a lot of new information at a very rapid rate, and this is hard on your mind. There's a lot of uncertainty and change, and it can be really stressful for us. It's not small changes in your day to day life like a new job or an ended friendship, it's changes in the foundation of our thinking, how we see ourselves in the world, our belief system, our entire concept of self, and everyday changes are hard enough. So give yourself grace for feeling anxious during this time. And I know I already mentioned healing, but healing is a huge part of the awakening process. We're being asked to address everything that we've repressed our entire lives until now. And that's a lot to take on. So allow yourself to process, allow yourself to cry. And this may sound like a crazy tip, right? But one thing that helped me immensely is crying. And when I start to feel the urge to cry, I allow myself to. If I'm not able to cry in the moment, I will literally put a reminder in my phone. I used to joke with my old therapist that I scheduled my breakdowns. I just put a reminder in my phone, and throughout my day, if I felt the need to cry come up, I would take a breath and I would tell myself I only have to wait till 7 p.m. or whatever. And when it's time to cry, I go all in. To this day, when I need to cry, I will make myself cry as hard as possible. And when I feel like I've cried enough about whatever was bothering me, I make myself cry more. I cry for everything I never had a chance to cry about. And then at some point, I'm just done. Often it just switches off and I can't cry anymore. And that's when I know I've cried all that I need to that day. And now, pause for a moment and check in with yourself. How do you feel in your body about what I just said? Because if you're feeling weird, uncomfortable, or off, I would ask that you reframe how you feel about crying. There's absolutely nothing wrong with crying. It's not healthy to not cry. It's simply a release of emotion that is vital to our health. Harvard Health wrote about the benefits of crying, and they found that we release endorphins when we cry that ease emotional and physical pain, and also oxytocin that helps us cope with stress and bring a sense of calm. So allow yourself to cry, it's good for you. Now, let's talk about a few tips, methods, things that you can use to overcome anxiety from your spiritual awakening. The first is to have a better understanding of what's happening to you. And you found your way here and you've made it this far, so great job. You're already doing it. Understanding spiritual awakenings and anxiety helps you to calm your mind simply because you know what's happening. It's not scary, it's not a big unknown thing anymore. Another tool for overcoming anxiety during a spiritual awakening is breathing. You can tell a lot about what your mind is doing based on your breathing. Short, shallow breaths can actually increase your anxiety. So I recommend deep breathing techniques such as Wim Hof or alternate nostril breathing. Wim Hof is a deep, deep breathing that can help you regulate your nervous system. I will leave a link to a Wim Hof video below that you can use every day to overcome your anxiety. Now, alternate nostril breathing is basically this. You take your right hand, you cover your right nostril with your right thumb, and exhale slowly, completely. Then you take your ring finger and cover the left nostril and breathe in slowly and fully. Then release slowly and fully through that right nostril. Then you release and cover the right nostril again and breathe in and out through the left. So you're just alternating which side you breathe through. I will put a link to an article with some great breathing techniques for anxiety in the description if you want to learn more. Walks you through step by step, including alternate nostril breathing. Another tool for overcoming anxiety in your spiritual awakening is spending time in nature. Honestly, as much as possible. Whether it's sitting in your front yard, walking around your city, or going for a hike, get as deep into nature as you can, as often as you can. This is such a great way to regulate your nervous system easily and naturally, and it's incredibly grounding. I found that once my spiritual awakening began, I enjoyed nature far more than I did before. So if you're thinking that you're not the outdoorsy type, maybe you became one. Even just sitting by a tree or putting your hand on one can be so healing. I cannot recommend trees enough. They can pull anxious energy out of you and push it down into the earth to be recycled and neutralized. They often just do this naturally, but you can also ask them to. Trees are just beautiful souls that are so kind and helpful, so go make friends with a tree or two. What I would recommend next is to embrace your healing journey. It is so important to heal to become your best self. When I really committed to my healing, everything in my life just started falling together. One thing I like to suggest to people when they're getting started is to take note of what your body and mind are telling you and how they're interacting. As a Virgo sun and Virgo stellium, I started keeping notes on my phone throughout the day of all the little things I was feeling. If I noticed a headache or my body hurting, I would pause, take a breath, and ask myself these four questions. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What is happening around me? And how are they related? I would take note of the time where I was and anything that might be related. Maybe I ate recently or I was feeling very cold in the room. Sometimes little pieces of information really do give you those clues. I also did this for any intuitive hits or downloads I had, and it helped me to really develop my intuition quickly. And I also learned what caused me to feel unwell. If you keep notes, you'll begin to notice patterns, and once you know what causes it, you can better manage it. Paying attention to your body in general is so important for healing because your body is always playing out your thoughts. And keeping notes like this can help with understanding when energy and emotions are yours or someone else's. Journaling and meditation are also great for your healing journey, as are somatic practices or any work you can do with your body. So many of us are ungrounded during a spiritual awakening, and working with the body can really help ground you. And on that note, ground. If you don't regularly ground and you're going through a spiritual awakening, please start. I recommend at least doing it every morning, but also when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, scattered. If you don't know how to ground already, start with like a 5-minute meditation. You can find plenty of them on YouTube. Then you can learn how to ground, the basics, and then develop your own way that works best for you. And then you can do it anytime without needing a meditation. And now I will put a small caveat in here when we're talking about our healing journeys. It is possible to do too much healing work. Healing is really heavy and hard sometimes. I personally, in my journey, got very obsessed with healing, almost to the level of being addicted to it. And we need to take time to disconnect from our inner world and engage with the outer world. So go do something fun, just because it's fun. Talk about work drama with your friends, play a game, just do things that feel nice without the intention of healing. Just have fun. Being too focused on our internal world and ignoring the 3D world can get you stuck in your anxiety even more, and it can get really depressing. It ends up feeling very suffocating, and we all need balance. Balance is talked about so much in spirituality, and everything in life and in the world needs balance. So keep that in mind and take time to just be. And with that, we are at the end. Remember, you don't have to do this alone, and if you're in need of someone to walk with you in those dark places, I'm available for that. This can be a really difficult time of spiritual awakening while you're in the middle of it, but it is the beginning of a more beautiful life. If you found something useful in this podcast, give it a like, or go ahead and follow and subscribe while you're at it. I would love to know what you found most helpful from this episode, so comment that down below. I love chatting with you all in the comments, and you are all so lovely. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Remember, be well, be kind, and may your curiosity for this world and the next never fade.